One thing President Obama no doubt wants to avoid is a gitmo of the mind. The actual facility finally closed, but what was and is wrong with it surviving, accompanying detainees wherever they are ultimately placed. But in our fourth story on the countdown, the president has set off a firestorm by warning of prolonged indefinite detention for some of the Gitmo prisoners and maybe others. He described these people in his speech yesterday, a fifth category of Gitmo detainees, the ones who cannot be transferred to another country, cannot be tried in either a civilian court or by military commission, and cannot be released. Examples of that threat, he said, include people who've received extensive explosive training at al-Qaeda training camps, or command Taliban troops in battle, or express their allegiance to Osama bin Laden, or otherwise made it clear that they want to kill Americans. These are people who, in effect, remain at war with the United States. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. But that new legal framework has yet to be devised, and human rights advocates wonder if it would dress up the problem without fixing it, and if it's unconstitutional or constitutional. I know the president in his speech was clearly talking about detainees left over from the Bush administration, some of whom cannot be tried because they were tortured. The New York Times reports the president is also considering a framework for future so-called preventive detainees, persons who basically have not done enough to be tried in court, but who supposedly pose a threat to the United States. Let's call in Professor of Constitutional Law at George Washington University, Jonathan Turley. John, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
Let's talk about them in groups. First, the unassigned detainees, we want to call them that. Some tortured by the Bush administration, so you can't put them on trial. Some presumably not going to be accepted by any country. What do we do with them? What can we do with them legally? Can you leave them off in front of Mr. Bush's new place in Dallas, or what?
Well, it is tempting to bring it on literally and just to ship them in that direction, but we can't do that. The one thing that we can't do besides that is we can't treat justice like it's some dim sum menu where you have the Obama administration saying we'll take a little military tribunal, we'll take some federal court, we'll take some with no trials at all, and who's going to make those decisions? We are. We're going to decide, for one thing, we're willing to give trials to people unless we think they're going to win. And if we think they're going to win, we're going to deny them trials, and we're just going to hold them indefinitely. Now, you can dress that up any way you want, but you cannot make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, and that's what it is. It is an unprincipled act. It is exactly what Bush is doing. And what's strange about the Obama administration is they think that if you act a little bit unprincipled, that must mean that you're a little principled. But that's not how it works. Being principled means you hold to your principles no matter how distasteful the consequences may be.
Yeah, a little principled means you have little principles.
Right.
So, all right, give me the safest for both considerations here. Obviously, you do not want, as has been, we wouldn't want these people dropped off. Some of them certainly the ones who've been detained all this time and may have a grudge against us for that reason alone. We don't want them dropped off in Dallas or New York or Wichita or anywhere else. What legally can be done that minimizes the possibility of there being a bad result for this country if they are, in fact, not guilty or found not guilty?
Well, there's a lot that can be done. Many of these people are members of terrorist organizations that can be proven without use of torture or coercion. Many of these people, in fact, can be tried. But there are going to be a small number of individuals who we simply have nothing we did not get through coercion or torture. And this is the test for our country. What the world sees the United States doing right now is having sort of buyer's remorse about our Constitution, to say, we don't want to give them these rights if they're going to use it to prove that they, need to be acquitted or need to be released. Well, you can't have that. You have to make a decision. And this is really the cost of the system that we have. If we cannot convict these people in a real court, not a military tribunal, a real court, a federal court, then we need to deport them. Now, pending deportation, we can hold them. You don't have to release them in society. That's a bunch of just total nonsense. But eventually you will have to deport them. Many of them would go to our allies, such as Afghanistan and Pakistan. But this is where you have the test of principle. And unfortunately, it's a test that the Obama administration is failing mightily.
Preventive detention. I'm suspecting this has trouble written all over it.
Right. Well, preventive detention is just a fancy word of saying no trial. It's just a way of saying we're not going to apply the rule of law. And it's perfectly ridiculous to try to dress it up as if it is some type of legal process. It's being created because you are afraid that these people could win in court. It's the most transparent effort to circumvent your own legal system. But I have to tell you, the greatest danger, Louis Brandeis once said that the greatest danger doesn't come from evil-minded rulers, but men who act without appreciating or understanding our system. They're men actually of goodwill, but they are men of zeal. And I think that that was the worst paraphrasing of Brandeis in my life. But what he was saying is that we have to be most on guard when people that we respect come to us and try to create these things. If we allow the president to create this special category, we are inviting something that is nothing short of tyranny. That's the definition of tyranny, being able to hold someone without trial because you believe that they could do something dangerous in the future.
Jonathan Turley of George Washington University, a grim reality, but there it is nonetheless. And Justice Brandeis just asked for your email. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.